Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the West End Imps show. As always, you're joined by myself, and as we haven't said it officially on the channel yet, birthday boy of yesterday, Mr. Conrad. Chris, how are you?
Morning, mate. Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Very well indeed. Beautiful morning out there.
Yeah, happy birthday for yesterday. Please wish
Much
Chris a
obliged.
happy birthday in the comments. Very good of Alan Long also to jump on the mic and say anything. Did you get anything nice, Chris, for your birthday?
I got I got a few books, a few bits and pieces. Just some nice things for around the house. It was just pretty chill, pretty quiet. Had a nice lunch with yourself and some of the other football crew, with Ruth and Keith and Ollie and Lynn and my missus and Jordan. So yeah, it was good. It was a nice day, and that was thanks Alan for the public humiliation on the mic as he was going around the ground.
Yeah, I heard you got some Lindt chocolates as well, which are very nice, aren't they? Right.
I did, yeah.
we'll move on because we're talking about the football. We'll start where we always start with the team lineups. Obviously, there were two forced changes in the week. Lewis was given a 3-game ban for a supposed elbow, which meant TJ Ioma came into the side, and obviously Ben House's red card on Tuesday night meant that Luke Plans made his first start for Lincoln. That was expected, I think. I think everyone saw the team at 2:00 and said, yeah, that's what we expected, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think there was any other options, to be honest, other than some radical formation change. I suppose the only option other than what we did would have been to perhaps put Mandroyu on to start and put Jack Diamond in the false nine, which is kind of how we ended up finishing the game, I think. But yeah, no, I think when Monsma's ban was given out in the week, I felt that was the position we had more cover, and I felt more confident, that TJ could come in and absolutely do a job there. It was the omission of House that was the big concern for me, and as I'm sure we'll come on to, it proved to be, that it was problematic without having Ben House in the team.
Yeah, it certainly was, and I think Lincoln, as they have done over the last sort of maybe 3 weeks or so, came out the blocks pretty fast. Like we saw against Bristol Rovers, we sort of took the initiative early on to Portsmouth, and I think first 10-15 minutes we were fantastic. Obviously, Jack has that one-on-one opportunity where I think he's just completely evaded the Pompey defence, and I've seen, if you haven't seen, Top 4 Pompey Lad, aka 4-0 written all over it, his vlog. You can see it a lot better than you can on the highlights. Jack just gets in a position where he doesn't know what to do, and it ultimately just prods the ball what he thinks is towards a goal, and it's wide of the mark. Which, you score that, then you think, right, Lincoln have got an early goal. They might go on to score 2, 3, etc. What did you make of the opening exchanges? Because I thought Lincoln dominated the first 10-15 minutes.
Oh, absolutely. I thought we dominated until Jacko went off, to be honest. I feel that that's noticeable the last few games, that we've really come out on the front foot, been really positive. We've been looking to create and unsettle early doors. I was raging at the point that Diamond, I think it was Sean Rowan, put a beautiful ball over the top, right onto his feet. And he was through, and it was decision making. I think he just was a rabbit in headlights. I don't know why, because he's a great player, but throughout the game for me, actually, I thought his decision making was very, very poor, and I was frustrated and disappointed. But I just felt, that's such a golden opportunity. You're not going to get many of those types of opportunities against anyone, let alone a team like Portsmouth. So yeah, just really frustrating. But overall, the first 10-15 minutes, yeah, really dominant. And I think if we'd taken that early lead, I think what's that, 6th game, 1 goal conceded since Charlton. That's an outstanding defensive record. And I think if we take a lead, we're highly likely to hang on to that. And actually, I think if we'd have scored early on, we would have probably gone on, I feel, to have won the game. But yeah, really, it was a funny game for me, because I've just found myself coming away from the game disappointed with a point, which is madness, isn't it? Like, I take a point against Portsmouth all day long.
Yeah,
But I just felt like there were opportunities for us to have taken the game.
yeah, and I think it would also be bad of us not to realise that Pompey fans are probably feeling the same this morning. They had
Yes, yep.
a plethora of opportunities, none better so than Colby Bishop, which we'll come on to in the second half. Obviously, there you mentioned Adam Jackson went off injured. I think Mark come out and said that he felt something before the Derby game, but was strong enough to play through it. But his calf just twinged. And we sort of thought in the area where we sit that he thought we were going to move Sean into the left side of centre back and bring Harry Boyes on. Obviously, that's not what happened. The reason Mark gave that explanation was that Sean Rowan only played left side of centre back once in the league this season and wasn't quite comfortable with it. So we switched to a 4-back, brought Danny Mandroyu in, sort of matched them up. If you look at their formation, went 4-2-3-1 with Portsmouth. Danny Mandroyu was brought in. Michael Horton seemed to have this idea that it was to stop Joe Morrell from dictating play, who, by the way, Joe Morrell had an unbelievable game yesterday. I thought he was clearly one of the best players on the pitch. That change in formation, that loss of Jackson, just we were on our path, and it sort of just, we were like an aeroplane. We just hit a bit of turbulence when Jacko went off, and we sort of lost our diversion towards our wanted destination. Do you think the same?
100%. Yeah, I just feel that was a massive change for us. Was the formation change, and I understand the reasons behind it, and Kennedy come out and explain that very clearly, but I just felt it nullified our attacking threat, because we, in that 3-4-3, it allows Diamond and Shadipo to go in closer to the striker, because you've got the overlapping runs of the likes of Poole or Rowan. And I was surprised it wasn't shifting Sean into the left centre back like you were and bringing Boyes on. I feel like it meant that we didn't have as much penetration in that final third, because it just left Plange so much more isolated. And he, on his first start for the club, I think he could have really benefited from having one or two closer to him. So yeah, I think that was a massive turning point for me, and I felt we became quite disjointed actually, and didn't really have any flow or rhythm. Partly, Pompey up their game, and like you say, Morrell started to take real control of that midfield. But again, that kind of happened after we'd gone to the 4 at the back. So yeah, it was a frustrating one for me. But again, it's like a point against Portsmouth, and I'm sat here feeling frustrated about it.
Yeah, and Danny's by no means a bad player. He was playing in his more favoured position as a number 10. You can just tell he's not played for a couple of weeks, and I thought that really sort of, you could tell. And the same for Luke Plange. You could tell that he was, wasn't used to starting games of football. But like you say, that change allowed Pompey to go into the second half. Joe Morrell started to dominate the midfield area, and Pompey was starting to cause us problems. I think Rico Hackett, who ironically we rumouredly, supposedly went in for on transfer deadline day, was causing a few problems. He switched wings with Owen Dale and caused a couple of problems down the right hand side. At one instance, I can remember he completely danced past Sean Rowan, past Paddy O'Connor, and hit literally within millimetres of the side netting. Would it be fair to say that Pompey sort of gained control for the last 10-15 minutes of that half?
I would say so. Yeah, I would say they, again, going back to that change in the formation, for me, it just shifted the onus, and they kind of grabbed it ahead of us, if you like. So yeah, I think that, and they've got some very good players, haven't they? And I'm a big fan of Bishop up front. I know he missed a couple of glaring opportunities late on in the game, but he's still a very good striker, holds the ball up really well, aggressive. So yeah, I was pleased actually to be going in, level at half time. And yeah, I was just thinking, like, we need to just come out, start the second half in the same way we started the first, and put them on the back foot again. But it never really kind of materialised.
Yeah, I think Pompey sort of sensed that we weren't at our strongest, and were able to gain control of the football match. And then second half, I just genuinely thought there was only going to be one team that won it. The thing that didn't allow them to win it was obviously our outstanding defence, which, like you say, Only one goal since, I think it was January the 7th that we played Charlton.
Yeah.
One goal in almost 2 months of football. It is a fantastic effort from the boys. They had a couple of glaring opportunities, like you say, Colby Bishop's probably being the biggest one, where he's clean through on goal. I've watched it back, it bobbles, so I can, giving him an excuse, I think it bobbles, but everything else, me and Tom said this after the game, that everything was just into Rushworth's hands and they didn't test him enough. And Rushworth is a good goalkeeper, and if you put anything either side of him, I think he'll save it, but everything was just immaculate from Rushworth. But Pompey definitely, they brought the changes on. They brought on Ronan Curtis, who scored against us before. They brought on Joe Pigott, who scored 25 goals in a Wimbledon side that struggled to stay up every year. And they also brought on Dane Scarlett, who was tipped to be something absolutely massive at Tottenham Hotspur. So it just shows you the quality that they had on the bench, and the fact that they still weren't able to score. I think that's a real positive for us, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm going into every game really confident defensively. I think it highlighted, like we said right at the beginning, the absence of Ben House has a huge impact on our high press and that defending from the front line, because he's exceptional. I think it's very hard for any other player to meet the standards that Ben House set himself this season. I think. I mean, Rushworth. He wasn't overly tested. I think his distribution was a bit off yesterday. He's normally so good, and he seemed to be putting a lot of balls out of play. So that was another frustration. You mentioned Danny Mandroyu and Luke Plange just kind of not having played games, and at times both I thought looked a little bit lost, a little bit kind of anonymous. Particularly Mandroyu, I was disappointed in his performance, unfortunately. But yeah, 0-0 again at home, another unbeaten again. I know we keep saying it, don't we? And it's frustrating to not be turning some of those draws into wins. But two 0-0s against Portsmouth this season, I don't think that's a terrible return from what is a big club. They've got so much depth. Like you say, those the subs they can bring on. Our bench pales in comparison, doesn't it, in terms of a name? But I think you can have as many sort of big names as you want. If you're not a collective team, then it makes a big difference. Excuse me.
Yeah, and Lincoln did have opportunities in that second half, obviously. Danny Mandroyu shut the bar of a really good turn and strike. Shadipo had a real opportunity from the follow-up. Jack Diamond could have squared one that straight on to
poor decision making for me.
I think there was one that goes square across the goal, and Mandroyu was a little bit on his heels. If he just strides forward and puts it into an empty net. And then I think someone who deserves massive praise for the impact they had on the game, Charles Vernon, obviously someone that signed last year from Bradford, who did really well in League Two. I would say it's fair to him that he's not been given a fair crack of the whip so far this season in League One. But when he's come on, I think he's looked dangerous. Even though the end product's not necessarily been there, he come on. He drew defenders. He had 2 or 3 long shots that destined to go in. But you got to remember that Pompey's keeper was 6'7", 6'8". He's a big lad. And Charles, I thought, positively impacted the game. What did you make of our chances in that second half?
Yeah, I thought Vernon made a big difference. He looked to be the only one that was going to unlock anything from our front line. I thought he was really impressive. And like I say, he's not being given much opportunity. The times I think he started in some of the cup games, perhaps he hasn't grabbed those opportunities and sort of forced himself into the front of Kennedy's mind in terms of team selection moving into the league games. But a good player to have coming off the bench. I thought he was really impressive. He was really, a couple of really good efforts on goal. And like you say, if there's a 6'4" instead of a 10'8" goalie in there, a couple of them might have sneaked in. But yeah, really positive. And I think it was, if it had ended 1-1 or 2-2, I think that would have been also a fair point to have grabbed, because both teams had chances. It was just probably a little bit of wasteful finishing at times for both teams.
Yeah, and before we come on to give our man of the match, I just think it's it would be nice just to. It was nice of Sean Raggett and Joe Morrell after the game to come over and applaud the Lincoln fans. Obviously, both players had good spells at the football club. Joe Morrell only on loan, but when he was at Lincoln, you felt he really fought for the badge and really cared. Whereas Sean Raggett, obviously a massive part of Lincoln City history, with the anniversary on the day of the game of his goal away at Burnley. So really good to see those two still playing at a competitive level, and also nice of them to acknowledge our supporters as well as their own.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was surprised that there was a few boos around for Raggett from our certainly in the co-op stand or the GMB or what it's called, co-op for me. I don't have any real reason to be annoyed with Sean Raggett. Actually, I felt we should have targeted him more, because he was poor, very, very off the pace, isn't he? You know, he was never the quickest, but he significantly lost a lot of speed on the ground, and I felt he was a weak link for me. But yeah, both will always be, particularly Sean, held in the highest regard by 99% of Lincoln fans, and well, they should be, you know.
And right, we'll move on to man of the match then. I'll ask you for yours first before I give mine. I've got a good idea where this is going, but who's your man of the match for yesterday, Chris?
Well, we were contemplating it on the way out of the ground yesterday, weren't we? And actually, had he played probably another 15, 20 minutes, I'd felt more comfortable giving it to Charles Vernon, because, like I said, I think he was the only one that really gave the spark and really wanted to try and, create and have shots on goal. But actually, for the fact that he's not been in for 4 games, and I'm a big fan of TJ's, and I thought he was excellent. Started in the 3, then went to the 4 at the back, and I think he was exceptional alongside Pordy. So I'm going to give it to TJ for yesterday.
Yeah, TJ was also my man of the match. So well stole there, Christopher. TJ was excellent to come up against Colby Bishop, who has scored 16 goals so far this season, who is a massive threat in the air. And I think TJ won a lot of headers against him. To say TJ is not the biggest centre back, having spoke to Pompey fans after the game as well, they were also impressed with Pordy and said Pordy had a really good game. Obviously, he got the sponsors man of the match, which I think you could have given it to either two would have been fair. But TJ for me just looked really good, and I think if he can keep up that level of performance for Forest Green and then MK Dons, 2 games we should really be targeting 6 points from, I think we'll be all right. But with TJ in the side, I've not got too many issues.
No qualms with TJ being in there at all, whether that's in back 4 or 3. I think he's a very, very good defender. And I think what I've noticed with our defence this season, possibly as opposed to the last season or 2, is the composure. There's no panic. Even when they've got players around them, there's always an option to pass or to kind of turn, and TJ's actually quite a good player on the ball. He's got good control. But yeah, just really composed. And like you say, I think him and Pordy could have equally have got a joint man of the match. But I think TJ just edged it because, 4 games out to come back in against the likes of Bishop and the wingers there, I think he had a really, really good performance.
Absolutely. Right, that's going to do for Pompey. If you're at Forest Green, me and Chris will both be there, so come over and say hello if you do see us. But that will be everything for today. I don't think I've missed anything. Chris, I've not missed anything?
I don't think so, mate. No, I'll be bringing those chocolates that you bought me for my birthday down for the journey to Forest Green Saturday.
Yes, that's why I brought you them. Right. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Please do make sure to like, comment and subscribe, as we are trying to reach 1,000 subs here on the Stacey West channel. Yes, so we'll see you next time, and as always, up the Imps.
Up the Imps.